This is where the Fulci cameo happens. He's the one who assigns the Boyle family to take up the work of the guy who suddenly killed himself. Well, that little girl she's standing outside of the mannequin, outside of the shop, looking at the mannequins. There's like a female and a little boy. They look like Bob and his soon-to-be babysitter Anne. The female mannequin's head falls off.
For some reason, it shows a dead girl, a ghost, staring at a mannequin to set up a death that happens later in the film, but I don't know why that scene's even
You
there.
should really know better than to try to attach rhyme or reason
To
any
Fulci.
supernatural Italian film.
Yeah, I got
Especially
it.
Fulci.
We've already talked about this
Yeah.
with Fulci films, and this is the first time we've done a second film from the same director,
Indeed.
and it's not going to be our last Fulci film.
No,
No,
I'm sure it
hell no.
won't be. And this is when they meet with the realtor, and she thinks that they've been there before, that she's met this Boyle guy before,
Mm-hmm.
even though he's never been there. May calls to Bob from the car. He gets out and goes and gets the doll or whatever. The mom's like, Bob's always bringing home that trash. She doesn't like him. Nobody likes Bob.
No one likes
No,
Bob.
not at all.
And this is when Mrs. Boyle notices that the Freudstein house is identical to the house in the picture in New York. And we notice that the cellar door is barred shut. And then the babysitter shows up, and she looks a lot like that headless mannequin.
Mm-hmm.
This is when...
Okay, go ahead.
No,
Go ahead.
This is the first time that we hear, like, the creepy child crying, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of...
Yeah.
And
Child.
that's Dr. Freudstein, Mr. Boyle hears the child crying, and he goes to check on Bob, who's sleeping. He hears the creaking and follows the sound of the kitchen where Anne is trying to pry the boarded up cellar door
The
open.
babysitter, yeah.
And that's where they first have their little fucking, back and forth eye contact thing.
Spoiler alert, Anne dies later in the film, but what was that all about? Was she under a trance, you think?
When
She's trying to open
the cellar door?
Yeah, why in the fuck is she doing that in the middle of the night?
Maybe she heard the crying too?
Yeah,
That's
maybe.
how I
But
took
I
it.
mean, but then she turns around and looks, and it's got the zoom in her eye, like close up, and she looks like she's like dead. And
That house I've seen this movie so many times now that it's like brilliantly written. The predecessor that Boyle takes over the work for had like a mistress, and his wife found out, and their like marriage and like the same thing starts to happen sort of to the Boyle family after
Mhm.
they move in, and it's just this house is it's the gate of hell in this
I'm just
movie.
assuming she's under a trance of some
Yeah,
sort.
probably the trance of the Freudstein house.
Another kind of reminiscent thing of The Shining there too. Because that hotel had that strange ability effect on people as well.
Right, yeah, and like the Freudstein house is the gate of hell in this movie. The seven doors of death, the gates of hell, whatever you want to call it. Boyle goes to the library to pick up the research, and the librarian also thinks that Boyle has already been there too with his daughter, which he doesn't have.
Yep.
Which is, he's obviously talking about May, and it's just another layer of this crazy story. It's a fucking amazing story. And did we meet the other weird, creepy
Mr.
librarian? Yeah, Mr. Douglas.
Yeah. He's clearly a child diddler.
He does look a lot like he would enjoy some alone time with
Absolutely.
Bob Boyle. But,
Who was dead? He died at age 39, unfortunately. But a lot of kids in real life. Mr. Douglas.
Oh, yeah?
Plays him. Yeah.
Huh, okay.
So that saved quite a few.
I love how he feels
Kids
the need
should be
to
in
point out where the guy's predecessor
Hung
hanged
himself.
himself.
Yeah.
Like, you want to see where he hanged himself? And that's where Boyle finds the Dr. Freudstein letter of medical license revocation, like Freudstein having his medical license repealed for, inhuman practices and all that good jazz. Lucy, the Mrs. Boyle, she finds Freudstein's grave inside the house.
Yep, underneath the rug.
Yeah, and the rug in the sunroom. That's it was honestly pretty common practice to have a tomb inside a home for.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's like what he says. If someone dies in the middle of winter, what the fuck? You just gonna put them in the shed until spring?
Yeah,
Bury them
makes
in the
sense.
house. I mean, do you know a little off topic, but the term living room didn't exist until like the turn of the 20th century. It used to be called the parlor, the funeral parlor. People used to do funerals in their own homes.
Yep.
And that, the idea of the living room was conjured up by the funeral industry, basically, and like they gave it this stigma of you gross, you don't want to do this in your house anymore. This this is a room for the living, blah blah blah. So living room, funeral parlor. That's where Freudstein's grave was, in the parlor.
Nice tie back.
She starts hearing the frightening noises from the cellar.
Like banging and crying.
Yeah. Boyle sedates her, and when she finally wakes up, he opens the cellar door for her to show her that there's nothing wrong and everything's cool. There's no reason to be afraid, and then the bat attack.
Oh, yep. The bat latches onto his hand.
Yeah, it's like one of the few things about this movie that kind of is like detracts a bit of the quality, is like just how awful the fake bat looks.
It looks so bad.
I mean, this is the scene where I really wanted Bob to die, because his dad is getting attacked by a bat, runs upstairs to the kitchen. Bob's like, "What's the matter, Dad? Are you fucking kidding me? I'm getting attacked by a fucking bat." If I was his dad, I would kick fuck him right in the mouth. Hate that kid so much.
Kick fuck him?
Yeah, kick fuck.
That's good. I like that.
Right in the fucking mouth.
That's a good term.
Hate that fucker.
I'm gonna use that
God
term.
damn it, dude.
He is an annoying little bastard.
Oh,
Yeah,
he's
he
so
is.
fucking... Oh, he's so gross looking, too. But,
So the realtor comes to the Freudstein house to talk to the Boyles about like relocating them, because they don't want to stay there anymore after the bat attack or whatever. But they've already cleared out, and she gets her foot caught in the Freudstein grave. It breaks through and breaks her leg, I guess.
And before that scene, it kind of segues with May sensing the realtor going into the house, and
Don't go
she keeps
inside.
saying, "Don't go inside. Don't go inside."
And this is the stabby. She gets stabbied in the chest, then she gets stabbied in the throat, and there's the great scene where he like pulls the stabber out, and there's a big hole in her throat. Gushing
Yeah,
blood
like-
all over.
Awesome blood spurt effect.
And if you look really close, you can see like the seam of the appliance application between her jawline and the throat, like you can in the Kevin Bacon arrow stab scene in Friday the 13th. But
we're still
whatever.
talking about the realtor lady?
Yeah.
Oh, that fucking... The blood gushing looked like fucking a Peter North cum shot. It's fucking just gratuitous and just spitting.
Peter North.
That's a name drop.
I was
out of
watching a
one.
Peter North scene the other night.
There you go. I don't like watching that guy's films.
To make you feel inadequate.
No, not at all. It's not that. It's just the bad, like, you can tell he tans. And then his eyelids are not tan because he puts those things over
Puts the
it.
goggles.
Yeah. It's distracting from the cum shot.
Oh dear. So yeah,
And her body gets drugged to the cellar.
yeah. The Boyles show back up, and Anne is busy cleaning up her blood.
And acting really weird.
Yeah, and Dr. Boyle says he has to go back to New York. I'm just gonna go ahead and leave my wife and son in this house that we were only shortly ago trying to abandon because we don't like it. And then he hears the tape of his predecessor, Dr. Peterson, going bonkers and having visions of his family butchered in the cellar.
A la Evil Dead,
Yeah.
Session 9. There's some more I can think of.
He was doing weird experiments in the cellar.
But honestly, I mean, this must have come out right around the same time that Evil Dead did.
Yeah, I'm
Evil
not
Dead-
saying it was lifted, but it's
Yeah.
the same type of...
Evil Dead, I think, began filming in '79, but I don't believe it was released until '81. If my
Yeah.
memory serves
It
correctly.
actually came out in 81.
Yeah. So,
The husband finds that tape of Dr. Peterson.
Yeah, why does he burns the tape? He burns the tape.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But yeah, like, you hear Dr. Peterson rambling on that there's blood everywhere.
And then he leaves wherever he's listening to, and May is standing outside, and that's kind of cool. The little ginger ghost girl is standing outside of the library in New York when she should obviously be in Massachusetts.
Right.
And Lucy is out shopping, leaves Bob home alone with Anne. I would do. I can't really blame her. That kid has cancer. But Ed can't find Bob.
He's in the cellar looking for his car.
She looks for him in the cellar. She gets locked down there and decapitated.
Gets her throat slit.
Yeah, he cuts her
That was
throat.
gnarly as fuck.
Yeah, cuts her throat until her head falls off.
There's like 3 or 4 different slices to the neck. It's pretty fucking cool.
Yes, thank you, Mr. DeRossi.
Their severed head rolls down the stairs to land at Bob's feet.
Oh, this part right here is the ugliest scene in cinematic history for me. It's where Bob is running up to get out of the cellar and pounding on the door and screaming "mommy," and when he looks at the camera, he's like, the light hits right, and he, like, Sloth is more attractive than he is. I mean, okay, so I understand you want your child to be a child actor, and this is the ironic part about this role for Bob is kids that ugly, you do not put them in films for the ridicule they'll endure growing up, because everyone's going to see how ugly he is. The ironic part is, with a kid like that, you want to lock in Fruitstein's cellar and just throw him food and not look at the fucking little mutant.
Right.
So,
Only there was a mute button on him.
oh, God, that's enough about, I'm not going to...
Well, Bob escapes from the cellar, even though the door closes on his hand. He escapes, and then Lucy gets home and finds him hiding in his room. And he tells her what happened, and they go to the cellar to look for him. Yeah. And they don't find anything, but we get that cool scene of the yellow eyes.
Staring from the shadows.
Yeah. And after bed, Bob sneaks back into the cellar and wants to, is trying to talk to Anne, even though he knows she's... God, I hate Bob. He sees the eyes himself and gets locked in, and he starts screaming for help, and Lucy comes to help him and tries to open the door the same way that the dad did with the knife.
Oh yeah, the knife.
Yeah, the knife and the key, but the key breaks in the lock. And Freudstein comes for Bob. Dr. Boyle gets home just in time to start chopping through the cellar door.
Almost kill Bob.
With
Yeah.
a
Oh,
hatchet.
so close.
Severs Freudstein's arm. And
Is this the scene where you get a really good look at Freudstein? Is
Yeah,
this
it's
the
like
first
right
one?
after it, you get
Yeah.
the...
He looks like a rejected member of Slipknot or something.
Kind of does.
it looks like they used like mortician's wax almost.
Yeah, it was very waxy.
to do the effects on his face. I don't
Mhm.
know. They finally make their way into the cellar to save Bob.
And you hear something about, this is when Freud's, like, you hear, like, I think a tape dubbed over it or something, but it says, that's when you find out he needs humans to rebuild himself.
Yeah, to regenerate cells.
Oh yeah, he said that's what he says to Lucy is that he uses the cells or his victims to regenerate his cells. And Dr. Boyle attacks Freudstein with the hatchet, and it's
The wound gushes worms and maggots.
well no he tries to hit him with the hatchet and he catches his arm
yeah.
and like the hatchet's discarded, so he grabs a knife and stabs him in the gut where they're all the maggots and stuff, and that's pretty cool. And then Freudstein tears Norman's throat out. Just fuck that douchebag
Mm-hmm.
and his stupid kid. They're all just part of the house now. And Lucy and Bob try to escape through the grave, the Freudstein grave that's in the living room, the parlor.
The parlor,
Yeah.
and only Bob could fit, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, he Lucy's trying to shove him through, and Freudstein comes up and like drags her down the stairs, and her head is like hitting all the stairs on the way down. It's fucking pretty brutal. And then Bob makes it through the top of the grave, and
May's reaching for him.
May and May's mother, Mrs. Freudstein, I can't remember her first name.
Neither can I.
They're standing there, and it's like, oh, you're Freudstein now. Because
Then
it's just what
they
the house does.
take off in the woods, and that would be it, right?
Yeah, we get that the Henry James quote at the end that says no one will ever know whether children are monsters or monsters are children.
I'd say that Bob was definitely a monster. Score time. I guess I'll go first.
It's your movie.
Yeah, I like this one a little bit better, the ending anyways, than City of Living Dead, yeah, even though that's your favorite Fulci film. But the ending's not ambiguous like City of the Living Dead. You ain't gotta guess.